What's going on, everybody? You know what it is. Put on my episodes yesterday. I think two, or one the day before, one the next. No, both yesterday, one anyways. So folks, just so everybody knows, first day back at work was on Monday. Today will be my third day. Holy fuck! Today will be my third day working. So if you're wondering why things are slowing up, this is why things are slowing up. Preparing to go back to work, and now I'm back working. We're essential. And like I said before, my essential service is now back up and running. Our furnace is now fixed, so the frequency of which these videos are happening may slow down, it may not, who knows. That's sorry, fucking thing was bugging me. So I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm not slowing up just because I'm being a procrastinator and shit like that. But that's always part of it. But anyway, so I put out some information. The newest information I put out was about watchers. And watchers is something that's always fascinated me and something I always like talking about. The Egregores, all that. In the second episode I put out on my podcast yesterday, I played a lot of people's different information about whether it was calling the watchers, whether it's about archons and watchers in the Bible, whether it's comparing them to the deities and the Egregores, the Gregori, whatever the case is. I put a bunch of different opinions about the subject, and you know, one being one of these girls, I can't remember her name, how she calls the watchers to it, and then Uncle Birch's version of calling it to it, and then I had what it said in the Book of Enoch, then I have what it said in the Bible, then David Icke's view, and Epiphany Lecture's view of Egregores watchers, what he said at Super Bowl, and what he says when he's talking about Beyonce, self-deification. Self-deification is whenever you pick a deity to be like us. In the beginning of my podcast, I said, and even on the video on Instagram, I say, I don't worship shit. I respect, I honor these beings, these deities, these gods. I use them all, I honor them, but I don't worship anything. This is not a religion of worshiping anything. Well, it's not religion, really. But the point of this is the difference that separates us from organized religion and spirituality. And this is the main reason I'm trying to get awareness into magic and witchcraft, into the, it's not like my main focus, but one of the things I want to do is get this kind of awareness about the magics and the witchcrafts into the New Age and the law of attraction communities, because they're dealing with the same stuff, okay? They're doing the same things, trying to use your mind to bring stuff to you, okay? You're trying to attract things using your mind, or using psychology, and all this is embedded within the magical witchcraft, these communities, these things that we, these are spiritual guidelines, let's just say, and then we have a specific kind of structure, and you know, I'm not telling anybody to adopt this kind of structure by any means, but I do want people to adopt the way of thinking, being that I thought Christianity, okay? Whether I'm right or wrong about this is irrelevant, okay? But these, at one point in time, and this is something I've come to and a lot of people have come to, all of these gods and deities, Mars and Venus, to Jesus Christ and God of the Bible, to Allah, to Moses, and you know, all these different figures, okay, across time were thought forms that were created by human beings. Now, you can take on the Jesus Christ thought form just like you can take on the Mercury Venus thought form. You can take on Hecate, or even Satan or Lucifer if you like, which might be the same as Venus, but you can take those thought forms on, and it will teach you something. You'll gather the information that was attached to that, and it'll help expand your mind. Now you've taken on that deity. This is self-deification. This is one of those things that you do when you start witchcraft. You pick a deity, but you don't really know what you're doing it for. But when you do this process, it helps. You gotta think of it as like you have your MacBook or your laptop, and all it has on there is your operating system, which is either, you know, Mac. It's either the iOS, or it's the newest version of Windows, or whatever you're running. But now you want to add all these different applications, all these different softwares, all these different things to run it. You want all your apps on there, right? Well, you are the laptop, the computer, and then your core, the blog, your name, whatever it is your operating system. Well, I guess it'd be more like your subconscious is your operating system. And Corey LeBlanc is the only app you have on there, or I have on here. And then when I start doing magic and witchcraft, every deity I've ever called upon, every deity I've ever used is a new app that I downloaded, and I can do stuff through that app. So I downloaded Venus, okay? And Venus is one of the first ones I've used because of the whole Taurus, and you know, the moon would be another version of that, and you know, these are energies within your body as well, so that plays on it. So it's like these are apps that are compatible with your software already, so it makes using them very easy. Plus the days of the week, everything is here to show us that, you know, this is what you should be doing. It's that they can't just tell you that, because if they told you that, you'd be like, well, fuck you, I'm not going to do it. Kind of like the way when they push Christianity on everybody, and now everybody's saying, fuck you, we're not going to believe in that shit. But that's another story. Point of this is the things we worship as gods were things that were created to help us learn and evolve. There is a collective consciousness, there's a collective unconscious. When you create a thought form, it goes into the collective unconscious, okay? Now, whatever if you want to believe this, that's your choice, but there's a lot of smarter people that have written many books about this, from psychologists to theologians to historians to scientists to anybody doing neuroplasticity or neuroscience, science of the brain. They've written books about this collective unconscious, and it's a phenomenon that you can't necessarily put it in a microscope and look at it, but with all the data collected, you can basically over time realize that this is true. And it's this is the reason all our movies end up being the same theme over and over and over again, because the stories we know, the stories that are deep within us, that you know, the 7 chakras, they all have a story. These deities, these gods, they all have a story, an origin story, whatever attached to them. Well, these are the stories we play out depending on what mood we're in, what vibration we're in, however you want to say it. Your lower chakras and your higher chakras are using all fucking 7. Well, then you might have, you know, when the Avengers all get together. But at first you're doing one Avenger at a time, right? You're doing the root, and then you're doing the fucking sacral, and then you're doing the solar, and then you're doing the fucking heart, and then you're doing the throat, and then you're doing the fucking third eye, and then you're doing the crown, and then you're doing all the Avengers together, going after one fucking bad guy. You know, then it's the 7 against the zodiac. Those are all your enemies. The 12 against the 7. And some of those 7 get sacrificed and killed and shot the fuck out and whatever. But anyways, point is, these things, this is what you do. We don't believe in one God. We believe in many gods. And a lot of people misconstrue that to say, well, it's because you believe in the days of the week as gods, and you believe in all these gods, and let them think that. But that's horse shit. That's not what we do. We don't just believe in a bunch of random gods. It's not. Our religion isn't as simple as here's the Bible, this is what I believe in. This fucking God, all these guys did stuff, this is history, this is fact, and this is what we believe in. It's not that fucking simple. It's not even like that whatsoever. Not for me anyways. The gods we believe in are the things that can help us evolve. And it's not necessarily just the 7 days of the week of those 7 planets in our body. That's not necessarily the gods we believe in. We believe in us as a piece of the whole, the all, the one. We are a piece of that, okay? Because that has this consciousness in everybody, then you can use everybody to evolve your consciousness, past, present, future. What I mean by that is, and I played it, Epiphany Lecture says it's great, but this is in many books. If you're doing mundane stuff, if you're trying to manifest money and stuff like that, well, you can call on an ancestor rather than calling on Jupiter. Now, I've used Jupiter, I've used Venus, and that's what I showed in that video. And you know, I think for beginners that's the best way to go, because they may not necessarily feel comfortable using their ancestors. Plus, that's a different type of witchcraft that I practice. But I'm not just going to come out here and say, hey, do this, because you know, it's part of a tradition, and that tradition is that tradition. But generally speaking, when I first started, and I was just doing my own thing, I used Venus and I used Jupiter, I used these sigils because I saw them in the books and they worked. But you can use your ancestors to bring on money, to help you with finance, to bring on love, to pay your bills. But then when you use the planets, you're using it for within your body, for self-love, to evolve yourself, to love yourself. People say you can't love somebody else unless you love yourself. That's horseshit. Because people can love somebody else more than themselves and sacrifice everything they do for that other person. You know what I mean? And that is a type of self-love, but you're projecting on somebody else. But that's another video for another time. But I guess the whole point of what I'm trying to say here is thought forms, egregores. We can create them just the same way that they've been used. Now, creating a thought form, if you're the type of person who says, I can't create a thought form, I don't really know, I hate when he talks about that because I don't really know what he's talking about, blah, 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 blah. Well, anytime you use another god or goddess, anytime you use another deity, you are using a thought form that someone created. And that has evolved. Now, did the Venus, or maybe Aphrodite, or Diana, Lucifer, whatever, did that thing, was that around before and then evolved into a planet and now it's deified? Probably not, but who knows? Or was the planet always there and they say, yeah, that's Venus? Well, not Venus, whatever the oldest name is for Venus, and it would be in a whole different language that I can't even pronounce, but yeah, that's Venus. And she's been there forever, and she's the goddess of this. Who knows and who cares? The point is there's power in this. Because we give it power. Whoever gives it power. If there's enough people that give it power, then there's tremendous power in it. But there doesn't even have to be a lot. You can create your own thought form with only your own unconsciousness, unconscious, collective, whatever you want to call it, your own energy into this thought form. No one else knows the name of this thought form. You can create it and it will accomplish something for you and come back. Now, if you don't treat it right, if you just let it roam freely or whatever, it can evolve and start doing shit or whatever, and that's where the whole Book of Enoch shit with the 5th level of heaven, with all these giant, enormous beings that look like people without any faces. That's what I was trying to get at when I was talking about the whole, that's what this reminds me of. And God's about to get rid of all those guys because they should have went down to earth and helped the humans. Well, the humans created it. And maybe that means we're not supposed to do this, not supposed to create thought forms. Maybe over time that script, that story got changed and changed and changed to the point where it didn't even make sense to the person reading it, so they just made it make as most sense, most relevant to today as it possibly could. Who knows? But to me, that's what I get out of it. And that's how this stuff works. The unconscious collective, just like the conscious, the collective consciousness and the unconscious. So there's, we have conscious and unconscious, so we're going to have both collective versions of that as well. Okay? And people say they're one and the same, and yeah, everything is the same. There is no opposites. Okay? Everything that seems like it's an opposite is really just different degrees. So read the Kabbalion. But anyways, that's what I was trying to get at, was that simple fact right there. That the Bible, the Book of Enoch, all these things, it's a different way of teaching magic. Even if it's telling you not to do it, it's telling you what not to do. And how not to do the bad things. And not necessarily not to do it. Not the uninitiated and the people who can't get past their own belief systems and programming and are too scared. Because I think if they pass that line, they're going to get struck down by God. Even though people are doing it every day and they're not getting struck down by God. Well, you know, that's there for them. And it serves a purpose. And who are we to make fun of that and say, you know, they're ignorant, this and that? It's not their fault. They were programmed, and now they're playing out their programming. We're the lucky ones that were able to get past our own programming and break our programming. We're like those thought forms, those egregores that were able to break their programming and evolve. Because maybe we're just someone's thought form created. And the ones playing out their programming are the thought forms that still have a hold, the person still has a hold on them. And we're the ones that broke free. So no, you're not controlling my strings anymore. And maybe that's the point.